The Westminster government's new heavy-handed approach to banning lead pellets and bullets will be a disaster for rimfire and airgun shooting. That's the conclusion of the National Smallbore Rifle Association, the GB governing body for disciplines using this ammunition, many of which are Olympic sports.
Short and long range small bore target shooting will, I hate to say collapse, but it will be in a real bad place. The main reason for that is, from the research that we've done, the lower levels of competitor will still be able to outshoot the best of the lead-free ammunition. The problem with that is it will turn the whole competition structure into a lottery.
Non-toxic airgun pellets and rimfire rounds are not accurate enough for target shooting. It will mean an end to Olympic hopes for many GB target shooters. The problem began in May 2022. The UK's Health and Safety Executive began a 6-month public consultation on proposals to ban most lead bullets and lead pellets for outdoor target shooting and hunting, plus a ban on the sale and use of lead shot. It closed in November 2022. It is unclear when the legislation will come, but when it does come, it's likely to mark a speedy end to the use of lead. Bask says if the transition periods are too short, it will have a massive impact on shooting in the UK.
Our position is that we remain committed to the transition away from lead for live quarry and shot, but the transition periods in the HSC restriction dossier are not sufficient based on the technical issues around small calibers currently.
Back in 2020, the shooting organisations fell in with the government chief medical officer's line that there is no safe level for lead in the human body. They took the initiative and agreed that shooters in England should, over 5 years, phase out lead shot and plastic wads in shotgun cartridges used for game shooting. Since then, the war in Ukraine and the effects of COVID on supply chains and manufacturing suggest that 5 years will not be long enough. The HSC aims to hurry up this process and extend it into other forms of shooting and different types of ammunition. It wants to force a change in the way Britain's 500,000 active shotgun and firearm certificate holders and an estimated 12 million airgun owners go shooting.
It's my understanding that obviously reading the Gun Trade Association's papers and submissions to the HSC that obviously there's supply chain issues, there's compound powder issues, there's component issues across the board regarding the ammunition that supplies, especially rifle ammunition, and therefore this needs to be taken into account. At the time that we noted our transition period, no one knew that there was going to be obviously a war in Ukraine.
The COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian invasion of Ukraine has had a massive impact on manufacturing. The gun trade has switched its focus from sporting to military. Cartridge manufacturers also say they're struggling to raise the finance and machinery to replace lead shot with steel shot. If shooting sports collapse because of an unworkable government ban, it will affect the UK's rural landscape.
If the timeframes are too short and unrealistic based on the evidence that we have submitted along with the other shooting organisations, then it will have a tremendous effect on the amount of pest control that's undertaken. If pest control is not undertaken, then the conservation work won't be undertaken. Species will suffer because of it. Crops, again, will suffer because of it. We already have to import a significant amount of crop into this country and food, so therefore we don't want to have to be doing any more of that, especially with what's going on. As well, economically, if people cannot get the ammunition they need, they won't be going shooting, as you well know. Therefore, rural communities will suffer because of it.
Shooters struggle with the phase-out of lead. Livens Gun Shop in Staffordshire says its customers are concerned and confused, especially about the changes to ammunition for deer and foxes.
They're worried about and a little concerned about expansion on bullets, and what non-toxic bullets, what effects they'll have. And a lot of hunters tend to develop their own loads, so they're a little concerned with that. So it's all a bit up in the air. People are asking a lot of questions, and we as a dealer can't really answer some of them as far as what bullets you know, ballistically alike, non-toxic wise, you know, what effects they're going to have.
BASC has prepared a series of new technical reports to illustrate where the banning of lead isn't necessary or requires a longer time frame. This includes smaller rifle calibers and 22 rimfire rifles, as well as airgun ammunition. BASC's report on airgun ammunition concludes there should be no restrictions as there is limited risk to the environment, and any risk to human health can be managed through existing sector guidance on game meat handling.
We have undertaken some tests around weight retention of pellets, penetration testing and accuracy testing, and actually there is no residual lead left, so with good game handling skills, the removal of wound chambers, there is negligible risk to human health.
Shooters fear that the proposed changes are being driven by people who want to ban shooting, not just shooting with lead ammunition.
If there's going to be legislation, which we don't believe that there should be, we are still very much for a voluntary transition, then we're expecting at least a 5-year time frame. And for 2.2 rimfire, we are saying that we want them to ensure that there is sufficient amount of ammunition. When I say 2.2 rimfire, I mean all rimfires. We need to ensure that there are sufficient amounts of ammunition available, and at that time when they are available, and then there should be a 5-year transitional period from that point.
It will be devastating, there's no question about it. There aren't any viable alternatives either for small bore rifle target shooting or for air rifle target shooting for the various disciplines that we cover. I think we need to obviously control lead in some way because it is a poison, there's no doubt about it. But I think that if they were to look at the way that we control lead now and the systems that we already have in place, it should be quite sufficient to make sure that everyone's safe.